In volleyball last weekend, the Golden Bears split 4 matches in West Virginia. In Wheeling, KU defeated Fairmont State in 4 sets after losing to the Falcons the previous week. However, the team lost to Wheeling in 3 sets. The following day in West Liberty, the Maroon and Gold defeated Charleston in 3 sets, but lost to West Liberty in 4 sets. The Golden Bears open PSAC play this weekend with 4 matches in Erie. KU enters the weekend at 6-5. The women's soccer team defeated Pitt Johnstown last Saturday 3-0 to even its mark at 3-3. The win marked the first time the KU defense did not allow a shot in a game since 2008. KU field hockey lost to Bloomsburg Tuesday night 5-0 to move to 3-3 entering PSAC play this weekend. Both the men's and women's cross-country teams finished 6th in the Lock Haven River Run last weekend. As a result, the men rank 7th and the women are 9th in the regional polls. And KU golf finished 2nd in the Clarion Invitational, led by Lauren Smith's 6th place finish. Remember, to stay up to date on everything Golden Bear Athletics, log on to kubears.com. We welcome in our first guest this week on the Gold Rush Report. It is Kutztown's Director of Sports Medicine, Rennie Sacco. Rennie, great to have you back here again. Good to see you as always.
Always good to see you.
One of the things that's always a hot topic when you talk with athletic trainers is obviously the concussion issue. It's become a hot button topic in health and sports. And what are some of the latest advances that you have seen in terms of diagnosing and treating the symptoms and maybe the post-concussion symptoms as well?
Well, there's been more software programs. More companies have come out with some software programs that the athlete uses with a keyboard, mouse, in front of a computer. And there's a little concern about putting someone in front of a computer screen for 20, 30 minutes. We currently don't use any of those programs. We're a little hesitant until the standard becomes a little bit more recognizable. We use some basic testing. We use balance testing. We use symptom testing, symptom checklist testing, and we do what is known as a SAC, which is a sort of a cognitive memory test. And so what's happening in the field is there's a lot of discussion because of the NFL and the lawsuits that has just been agreed to with the $749 million, I think it was, in that neighborhood. What's happening, though, is the media is jumping on top of that, and they're using that possibly as a way to spread that down through other sports. The NCAA has basically have a requirement that we have to baseline test everybody, and that's been a few years now, and that's worked out good. We haven't seen much difference from year to year in what we've been doing, so I don't know if that helps you there.
One thing I want to ask you, which has been interesting to me, is especially I notice it in baseball, rehab times for surgeries, major surgeries, whether it's Tommy John on the elbow or ACL, seems to be getting shorter and shorter. Why is that?
Two things, I think. What's happened is the surgeons are gotten better at their skill in doing the surgery, and the numbers you're seeing are coming from elite athletes. We're having more elite athletes. Our athletes are better prepared when they're going into the surgery. And I guess the third part would be that the therapists, the athletic trainers, they're more knowledgeable. They're better at their craft than they were 10, 15 years ago. So everything's gotten better. What we have noticed, the speed has really changed more at the elite level than at the high school and the college level.
Last thing I want to ask you, because I know your department's very big and it's very busy. You have a lot of student workers, and you've had a lot over the years. How do they make your program that much better?
Well, with 550-plus athletes in 22 sports, they're invaluable. For us to spend the amount of time we do with our student athletes, if we didn't have our student working staff, and we have some interns from East Stroudsburg, we have an affiliation with them now, and that's helped, we wouldn't get the job done. We'd be behind the 8 ball most of the time, so they're very invaluable.
Rennie, always a pleasure. Thanks for taking the time, and continued success in your department here at Kutztown.
Thank you.
Rennie Sacco, Director of Sports Medicine, our guest. We'll come back with more in the Gold Rush Report right after this. Welcome back to this week's KU Gold Rush Report. I'm Steve Degler. Our next guest is Jeremy Culver, track and field athlete at Kutztown, 1996 through 1999, and he will be one of 6 inductees into the KU Athletics Hall of Fame coming up in November. First of all, Jeremy, congratulations on the Hall of Fame honor, and what does it mean to you?
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It's a great honor, all cliches aside, because you at an early part in life you dedicate so much time and energy into one pursuit, and all these many years later, have that pursuit recognized and honored in a lot of ways it validates all the work, and it validates that other people recognize the work you put in and the effort you put in and appreciated what you're able to do. And it's nice, moving on to other chapters in life, to look back so fondly on that chapter and to be recognized for it.
You won multiple individual and team championships, both indoors and outdoors, for the Golden Bears. What were some of the events in which you competed?
Well, I transferred to Kutztown to focus on the decathlon with Coach Brian Monshine and his father, Herb Monshine. But with decathlon, obviously you can't do that every meet, so you have to have your individual events. And my individual events were focused on the 200 meters, the 400 meters, the long jump, and the relays primarily. And then some meets you work on, like some meets you'll do the shot put or something like that, just to work on your decathlon events as well.
When you talk about the decathlon, breakdown, how much is mental, how much is physical to get through those 10 events?
I think it's probably in a lot of ways 50-50. I mean, I think when you're younger, everything is, you feel invincible, so everything kind of comes down to a physical aspect. But Coach Monshine was really, looking back and how he handled the mental aspect, I think I was really blessed and fortunate to have such great coaching, because they coached the mental aspect of it so well. If I hadn't had that coaching, I can look back and say that the mental aspect could easily ruin the physical aspect, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's really a 50-50, but having the great coaching and who could put that in perspective for you, it was really important.
We're visiting this week with Jeremy Culver, who will be inducted into the KU Athletic Hall of Fame coming up in November. I mentioned, Jeremy, indoor and outdoor. Is there a big difference for you as a sprinter, for instance, being inside or outside?
Outside of the weather in the Northeast.
That's a little bit of a factor, isn't it?
yeah, there is, because the indoor track is 200 meters long, and I know these days most of the tracks are banked. I assume most of the tracks are banked just from watching. When I was running, there were very few banked tracks, so you have that torque going around a 200-meter track if you're doing a sprint. So one lap indoors is 200 meters, one lap outdoors is 400 meters. So it changes how you run. I think it changes in a lot of ways how your body reacts to that kind of stress. And so everything's just obviously shorter and tighter turns. And yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing from a sprinting perspective. I think from any kind of running perspective. The benefits are that the weather is controlled. You're not dealing with wind. You're not dealing with any of those aspects. So, going into a meet that if you're jumping, you don't have to worry about which way the wind's blowing.
I think track and field is such a unique sport, and while you're trying to win individually, you're also trying to help your team win championships as well. What's that balance like for you as an athlete?
Well, I think in track and field it's very, it's a unique sport in that as you win individually, you are helping your team win collectively. Whereas other team sports or ball sports, you have to work with your teammates and you have to, you move as one collective unit, like chess pieces on a chessboard. Whereas in track and field, you can focus on your individual efforts and do the best you possibly can. And if you have a good result, the team shares that result. So it's unique in that regard that you feel really motivated to do well for yourself, but you also realize that all these other people are going to benefit from a team perspective if you do well.
So what is Jeremy Culver up to these days?
I am a writer and a director, and so right now I'm in Los Angeles finishing up a feature film that will be, we'll screen it in December and it'll be released for next Christmas. And it's always what I wanted to do growing up, and I'm very fortunate at this point in my life that I have acquired the know-how and the support structure around me to pursue that and have success doing it.
Let me follow up on that. You said you've wanted to do this all of your life. Are there some things out there that maybe folks would have seen that you've been involved with?
At this next year will be the first feature. Up to this point, I've done mostly short films. So, did a film that's actually going to the Vatican this week and presented to Pope Francis. And then this summer, we did a stage play in New York off Broadway as part of the New York Music Theater Festival. And it was a show that, so if anybody was in New York this summer, they may have seen it. It was a show that fused live painting with film and music. So, and that was a really rewarding experience.
Well, obviously, athletics is such a tough business. I can imagine that being in Hollywood is a little bit of a tough business as well. Is that true?
Yeah, it's really important to surround yourself with the right people. I think that's true of any aspect in life, personal relationships, any kind of work environment. And with this kind of environment, you can choose who you want to work with to some degree. Now, whoever distributors are and, whoever picks up the film, you can still choose to some degree who those people are and who you surround yourself with. But as a filmmaker, when you're actually making the film, it's really important to surround yourself with the right people. And so you can become a little insulated in that regard, in a good way. And you look at most of the filmmakers who are very successful, they work with the same people all the time. They keep themselves somewhat insulated and away from all the potential pitfalls. And I think that's really important. And we have a really great group of people, from our producer down to who my director of photography is. And we're all on the same page with the kind of projects we want to do.
Last thing I want to ask you, Jeremy, is you were here, I mentioned the mid to late 90s when KU athletics was really beginning to take off. For you student athletes at the time, what was it like to be involved with that?
Well, for our teams in track and field, we were really successful, so it was great to be involved in that level of success. I think once you're in the moment, maybe you don't realize how much we are building towards the future. I mean, shortly after I left Kutztown, the facility started improving, and so you see the results of the investment into student athletes and how that had paid off and how that was being represented in improved facilities. And you look back and say that, you had a hand in helping to build that, and that's really a proud moment. I think, but when you're in it, you're just so focused on the moment. You're so focused on the next result, and that you don't necessarily look at the big picture. I think as you get older, you're afforded the opportunity to step back and see what it all meant and what it all continues to mean.
Well, Jeremy, we again congratulate you on the Hall of Fame honor. We wish you the best of luck in your career out there in Los Angeles.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Jeremy Culver, KU Hall of Famer, our guest. Also, thanks to our other guest, Rennie Sacco, this week. Stay tuned. Second half kickoff from Westchester comes your way right after this.